Okay, so this video is going to be a little different than normal, and I normally wouldn't do this, but I was so mad about all the power going out and the winter storm that I just needed to take a few days to collect my thoughts together to try to make sense of all this and help anybody out there make sense of all this. If anybody cares, if anybody's wondering what happened in Texas. So, Monday morning, early Monday morning, I knew it was going to, snow. We had freezing rain over Sunday night, and then it snowed on top of that. So I already knew I wasn't going to be going into work because all the roads were going to be frozen over with snow piled on top of it. So it's like, you don't want to be out on black ice. But it's been years since we've had snow down here. We usually get it like once every 4 to 6 or 8 years. And it's very brief. So I went out, I enjoyed a little bit of it. It was just fun. Okay, it is freezing out here, but the ground is completely snowed over. It is awesome. I haven't seen this much snow that stayed on the ground in oh God, I think it's been well over 20 years. I am way too excited for all this. But I don't want the camera to freeze and my hand is about to freeze off. So maybe I'll make a little snowman later. And then Monday into the day, the sun was out and it was snowing. I guess, only in southeast Texas. So I wasn't too worried about that. And I still had power. Got an email saying, my apartment complex was going to shut off the water at about 5:30. Okay, fine. Prepared, put some water in the bathtub, filled up jugs and all that. And thankfully, I already had bottles of water and a couple jugs of water for the porcelain throne. So, all right, didn't think it was going to be all that bad. But Monday night is where the fun of the snow stopped. So here's what happened down here, at least from my area of town. And all over Texas, power was out, but here's what I knew. So I wake up Tuesday morning after having the heater on, and the power went out, I can only assume between 3 and 4 a.m. I woke up at 6 a.m. and the power was out all day until about 11 o'clock Tuesday night. The power was on, I want to say, only for about 5 hours. So turned on the heat, got everything warmed up, charged my phone, charged the little electronic hand warmer I have that also doubles as a power bank. So about the same thing on Wednesday, except starting to run low on water. Tried to conserve as much as possible, but when you gotta go, you gotta go. And so had a MacGyver idea. If anyone remembers that show. Went outside, took one of the bowls, I have one of the plastic bowls, and put it underneath the rain gutter. At least one of the rain gutters that was high enough. So all the ice and the water, didn't think it was that bad because it was snow and ice and all that. That melted, dripped down the gutter drain, let that fill up with water, which was going for half the day, and use that to fill up jugs, to fill up the toilet. So you make do with what you got. You learn to adapt. Okay, how can I make this work? I took chunks of ice from the snow that was starting to melt, but then frozen over again, broke those up, put it in a big pot, put it in the oven, and put the 2 candles that I had underneath it, try to heat that up, heat up the ice as another method to have some, water for the bathroom. And so the power, Wednesday was out for about, Tuesday it was out for about 20 hours. Wednesday it was out for about maybe 18. It came back on between 8 and 9 o'clock at night. So what was anyone to do during all that time? Well, nobody really has power to, watch TV, watch the news, see what's going on. Not everyone has a wind-up radio to hear what's going on. I was using, conservatively, the battery on my phone just to keep up tabs, read any article that I could that was popping up, like the local news, the NPR, CNN, everything having to do with when's the power going to come back on. We can't do this forever. And it was becoming a serious problem. I know it was a much worse problem for people a little north and in other parts of the state. People were losing their lives and freezing to death because of this. So I felt lucky that I was making do, but I put every blanket I had on top of my bed, put on about 5 or 6 layers of clothes, some of the winter hats that I never wear, wearing gloves, and I noticed my other neighbors were taking big jugs and filling up with pool water. So I quickly, texted a couple of friends. I said, "Hey, is pool water okay for the toilet?" They say, "Yeah, you can put it in pool water, just don't boil it or drink it at all." I'm like, "No, I don't intend to, and I would not recommend that to anybody else for obvious reasons." But I didn't know that, oh yeah, you can use it just as toilet water. I'm like, oh, okay. Thankfully, I didn't have to. But power came back on late Wednesday night, and thankfully it did stay on after that. Now, between Tuesday and Wednesday, that was just, it's memorable because it was so miserable. Didn't have much to eat. Slab cereal, I can eat that desperate swiftness. I need water to make. Beans! All I ate, because I didn't know how long I was going to have to make things last, were, the couple of tiny protein bars that I usually take with me to work, and the tiny bit of beef jerky I had left in the pantry. Because I'm like, I'm not going to open up the freezer or the fridge, let any of that cold air out, even though I could have easily just put the food outside and it was refrozen. Because you go from 7 degrees, or maybe it was about 9 or 10 degrees, and now we're up to 78 within a week. That's Texas. We just have all 4 seasons in a day sometimes. But I didn't want to risk things in the fridge, except for when the power came back on for a little bit. Then it was like, okay, but I can't cook anything either. So in addition to eating very little and having to conserve drinking water a whole lot, it's like, I lost a good bit of weight in just 2 days. Trying to not let my body shut down, certain functions, because I'm, a little mildly hypoglycemic. It's like, oh. Needless to say, I and many others were pissed off, and understandably so. We want to know what's going on, and everything I was reading, of course, as usual, government and big corporation businesses in charge of things are going to cover their ass and lie so they don't look bad, which that's normal. Unfortunately, that's what they do. What I found out, and all I was doing was Googling Houston blackout update or Houston power update. And maybe you can find some articles on that. I don't know if I should link it, but if you Google it, you'll probably find the same things I did. Because I think some of the local news, KHOU, was updating every couple of hours. And I was worried that I was going to go over my data limit. And thankfully, AT&T was good to us and many others in the state, and they waived the overage charges, so thank you. So who is this ERCOT? Why have I never really heard about it before? Oh, ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. Key word, reliability, which it was not reliable. It was not a rolling blackout like they kept saying that they were doing and that it was. It was failure on their part. And everybody was blaming each other. The governor and even, Dan Crenshaw, they're blaming the wind and solar energy. Here's the thing. Wind and solar energy only make up about 10% of the power in Texas. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the natural gas and everything else. So saying, oh yeah, this is what happens when the wind turbines freeze over, shut up. Like, that is not true. They could have been winterized. Things could have been prevented. I know I'm not the only one saying this, but, the council And all the higher ups, the people that distribute the energy, and the people who make the energy. There is truth in, yes, the pipes that transport the natural gas into the generator and all that. Yeah, they froze. I get that. But they could have been prevented from freezing. Now, granted, we're in Texas, we don't freeze as much as everywhere else, but also our pipes are very thin compared to the rest of the nation that has proper, precautions to take. And back in 2011, there was also another, I don't remember it being a winter storm, at least not from my area, but I do remember, see, I was working at a movie theater at the time, and it came out and the temperature dropped sharply, very fast. So that's probably why I vaguely remember that. But, they were all told you need to take precautions for the future so this doesn't happen, because power outages were happening. And now we had it again 10 years later because they were told to winterize. They were told to fix this. But as usual, oh, well, it rarely happens here, and we don't really want to spend the money on something that may or may not happen. But unfortunately, that's the excuses that they're coming up with. So there's a lot of blame to go around, even though everybody's pointing fingers at each other. There's a lot of blame. And I myself will say, some of us, regular people, a lot of people didn't know that they should have been even more prepared. But yeah, in general, it is a good idea to be prepared for something like this. I was lucky that I just happened to have some, jugs of water and a couple cases of bottles of water on hand already. But if I didn't, I don't know. I honestly don't know what would have happened. Reading after the fact, after they started getting power back up, and yes, it was a failure. They were not rolling outages. Rolling blackouts would be about, as they claim, 15 minutes to an hour perhaps. And I would have said, if you're going to roll the blackouts around, give it like maybe 3 hours for an area to turn on the heat, and get it. I know I'm speaking idealistically here. And then maybe 6 hours without power, 6 to maybe 9 at the most. And the elderly had no idea what was going on. They're without power. They have no way to know unless, the family calls them up. So all this bullshit, basically, that was happening. And I'm like, I got to make a video about this, but how do I keep calm? Don't go off the rails. Just try to present, the facts of what happened and what was being said, what was being investigated. Finally, now there's some good investigation going on. I think I was listening to NPR on the way home yesterday, and they were talking to folks. They have more information than I do, basically. More information than a lot of us actually did. They said the same thing, there's a lot of blame to go around. There's no one specific failure. There's failure on a part of, the power that was being generated. Yeah, okay, things froze over, and people blaming it on renewable energy. Like, there are wind turbines in Antarctica and so many other parts of the country that they're winterized. You either spend a little more money to winterize the things, or play it like, well, this really never happens, and then you end up with a lot of people who lose their lives as what happened. And I myself was without any running water for a week. Got cold water back this previous Monday, and as of this recording, just yesterday, I finally got hot water back. So now I can take a shower. I think it was about a week, I was able to go to a friend's house who still had water, hot water, all that. I knew about the boil notice. I'd never really boiled water before. Yeah, it's a little tedious, but oh well. Now that I've got hot water, I'll go take another shower, and after 2 weeks, I can finally safely shave again. Small problems in comparison to everything else that's going on. I know, I get that. And so, if anyone was curious out there, hope I said enough. I probably said too much, giving more details, but these are the facts. This is what happened. Things froze over in a winter storm. that a lot of folks were just not prepared for, and the energy companies, you know, the generators and the distributors were not prepared for it either. But they have the job of making sure that they're prepared more than the average folks, who kind of depend on them to be prepared so that they can have power to heat their homes so they don't freeze to death. Sorry if it got a little dark there, but this is the reality right now. Now the temperature is back up. Yesterday it felt about 80 degrees, so you know, that is Texas for you. That is Southeast Texas. I took a couple of pictures early Monday morning just because I was excited, and that excitement quickly went away, and I just didn't want to risk anymore, even though maybe I should have taken more videos and photos of the outside. It was like, not only was I not in the mood to try to get a composition from the ice and the slickness of everything, it's like, it just is not the right thing to do right now. It's like, you know, all I was doing Tuesday was basically trying to nap and sleep through the power outage, just laying in my bed, covered up under everything, wearing as much as possible to stay warm. And I think we got down to 56 in here. Some people I heard got down like into the 40s or below in their homes. And then once the water came back on, and so many people had pipes bursting everywhere, you know, thankfully the way this place was built, we don't have pipes, you know, up bursting in the ceiling. They're in the walls, and they were okay. But again, I was lucky. One other way that I did try to stay warm, I did have a bit of rum on hand. It helped only in the chest area, but you know, take what I can get. What do you do when you don't have water? Try to stay warm? Drink rum. If you're of legal age, of course. So, yeah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. If you could, please hit the like and subscribe button. Not necessarily just for this video, but you know, please help this channel try to grow. I would really appreciate it, so I can get back into the creative swing of things, because it's coming. It's almost there. But yeah, anyway, thank you again for watching. Y'all be excellent, be safe, stay warm out there, and I will see you in the next one.